today, Dowell Loggins was really good, by the way. I think it was more of a philosophical discussion than really diving into the scheme. Very first question, or one of the first questions, was something that everybody has been trying to figure out, and that is what exactly will this offense look like? Just in terms of scheme, in terms of presentation. And I think we know that there's still going to be some multiplicity to this thing, Wes. There's been a lot of talk in the offseason about simplifying the offense, but I think when you look at simplification, that doesn't mean that this is a high school offense, right? That doesn't mean there won't be concepts within this offense. But it is a fascinating question because, players and coaches alike have kind of stopped short of saying exactly, hey, we're going to run this is one I just kind of made up on the fly today during the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on 107.5. Hey, we're going to run a bunch of dig routes, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I think even if the players had said more so far, or if Loggins were to say more, a lot of it would still be boilerplate, typical kind of coach speak, player speak stuff. But I do think a lot of the stuff that Loggins has discussed is nonetheless very important for this team, right? He mentioned again today the notion that his relationship with Spencer Rattler, the quarterback, is a partnership. And he went as far as to say it's not a dictatorship. He gave his little anecdote about calling a play basically to mess with Lenora Sellers and Spencer Rattler the other day, a play that they had all kind of scrapped it, I guess, for lack of a better word. So when he talks about partnerships and talks about gathering feedback from players and how to best utilize players, I think these are things, Wes, that while it's not explaining what exactly he's going to call on a given player, given day, which he's not going to give anyway, I think these are still nonetheless very, very important things for Gamecock fans to hear. Because number one, that's what you want your offensive coordinator to be saying, especially with what we've seen and what we've analyzed and discussed the past couple of years, where you're wondering sometimes, are the players being put in the best position, right? Now, I feel like Dowell Loggins has kind of lessened that talk a little bit. And there's also a little bit of evidence to it as well. Some of the things we've seen and heard in the preseason, the strides that Spencer Rattler has made during the offseason, the freedom that he's been given by Dowell Loggins to operate in this offense. I think there have been a lot of positive indicators on that front to where, yeah, we don't exactly know what is the split going to be of, is it 10% from Oklahoma, 30% from the NFL, 20% from last year's concepts that work. We don't know that, but we do have a better sense, I think, of, the fact that this offense is going to match, I think, what Spencer Rattler can do and other players on this team.
Yeah, man. So I think we're starting to get a feel to an extent of what to expect. And it kind of just hit me listening to them talk today. I, at this point, feel like this offense, just in terms of maybe who the thing's going to revolve around. And I think that answer is number 7, is Spencer Rattler. I'm wondering, Chris, if we're going to get the offense that we all thought we might be about to get this time last year. Like, do you remember those conversations where we're like, man, you don't bring in Spencer Rattler and not throw the ball all around the yard. Like, that's just what you do. And then it didn't quite click. They were kind of just trying to find something to lean on, like to hang their hat on. And for a stretch of the year, what did that become? It became limit mistakes from Rattler, get the ball to Marshawn Lloyd, run the ball, defenses creating turnovers. Let's just win games that way. And then, they went through the stretch where there were some more struggles. And then, of course, the offense went off as, as the season sort of ended there, the final stretch we've talked about all off season. So I kind of, the more you hear, Chris, the more it sort of feels like this thing is going to revolve around 7. I think there is increasing evidence of the amount of freedom that they are going to give Spencer Rattler to take ownership of this scheme. And I think you initially hear that, and you hear that in the offseason, and it's more along the lines of what Dow has specifically talked about in practice. Hey, what do you like? What do you like about this concept? Why do you like this concept? Give me feedback. I want it to be honest feedback. I don't, Loggins talked about the bobblehead. I don't want you to be a bobblehead. I don't want you just to sort of tell me what I want to hear, just agree with me. I want your honest opinion. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it for any concept or play? That was my interpretation. As we get closer to kickoff, I think the interpretation and my belief is that it goes even deeper than that, Chris. And I think it has expanded. There's a lot of evidence of this. Loggins even said it himself today publicly. There's a lot of evidence that it also means there's going to be a lot of responsibility, a lot of trust on or within Rattler to go up there, and if you see something, change it. If you like something against the look, get the guys in the look you want. And I think that's kind of exciting when, if you're a fan out there, hearing that Loggins is willing to give Rattler that much leeway.
Totally agree. And, Wes, we've heard some things in the preseason that Spencer has really shown that he can handle that. And he's had some success doing it. Wes, at this point in the preseason, if we would not be hearing this, if South Carolina, if Dow Loggins had gone into the preseason saying, man, I would love for our quarterback to be able to look at the look that we're getting defensively and change things up. And if they had gone through preseason camp and Spencer Rattler had not shown that ability, he wouldn't be talking about it, right? They'd just be, what's the phrasing? They would just call it and haul it. We wouldn't hear that terminology in the press conference. So I think not only has he proven that he can do it, Wes, I think he's thrived in it. And Dow Loggins has been pretty strong on this today. He even said, hey, Spencer's getting more freedom at the line to adjust things than some NFL quarterbacks have had. Right. And so it is interesting when you look back at last season, to go back to your point about how we saw the offense's identity shift. Remember, Arkansas game early in the season last year, Spencer threw for a bunch of yards, but you're sitting there going, gosh, Marshawn Lloyd didn't get the ball a lot. Like, shouldn't they have run it more? Look at the A&M and Kentucky games. Spencer Rattler had very unremarkable numbers in there in terms of passing attempts. That was the point in the season where you're going, all right, this is a team that needs to run the football, limit mistakes, play solid defense, turn your opponents over, play great special teams. We saw that in those weeks. But then by end of the year, look at what happened in the Tennessee game and the Clemson game. You're pitching it around a little bit more. Happened to be the two biggest wins of the season. So I tend to think that's what we're going to see, a Spencer Rattler who can go out there, play free, just play ball, but also one that has a good bit of freedom to not only play loose like they were at the end of last year, simplifying things, playing loose, nothing to lose type of mentality, but actually being able to go up and change things in the line. And my understanding is they've thrown a good many looks at him this preseason, and he's responded to it. So that Wes, is, I know we've discussed it, but I think sometimes we forget generally how big of an impact a Spencer Rattler at his peak, that can make a huge difference in this season. I know you've said before, this offense is going to go as far as 7 will take them. He's shown the ability to do some special things in the past, and that should be pretty exciting if they can do it on a consistent level.
Yeah, and I also think this offense is going to go as far as the offensive line can take it, because I think that is the key to unlocking the Spencer Rattler that we are talking about. At the same time, man, there is a sense, there are some guys, I think your hope, if you're a Gamecock fan out there listening, there are some guys, especially in college. I don't know if you necessarily can do this in the NFL. Like, you got to be all-time great. There are some guys in college that are playing at such a peak level that they get the ball out so fast, and they are so convicted in what they're doing and in knowing where the ball is supposed to go, that it can actually lessen quite a bit of that load from your offensive line and pass protection, and kind of ease that burden a little bit. If Spencer Rattler can be at that point for a good portion of this season, maybe that does help a unit that I think is probably still has the most question marks on this team. Doesn't necessarily help them be able to grind out the ground game and block physically as far as that's concerned. I think that's more of a hat on a hat, man on a man, your guy against their guy type situation. But we've seen quarterbacks at the elite level transcend kind of the rest of the game. They almost break the game to an extent. And you start hearing things about, I mean, if you can stay a step ahead of the defense by having a quarterback who's like a coach on the field in terms of moving things around and having that freedom, then that can really carry you a long way. So I think this entire offense is going to have to be built on that idea, and then turning around, running the football off of that. Run the football once you have established that you can throw the ball down the field, you can throw the ball on the perimeter. We're going to talk about Clayton White and the defense as well, Chris. But let's combine these two things. Did you listen to the press conference, or were you watching? Did you watch it?
I watched logins, and then I caught up with the other ones via our esteemed team at GamecockCentral.com. And I've got to go back and watch those because I prefer to watch, not listen.
So when you watch the look on Clayton White's face when he is talking about Spencer Rattler, because there was a question about Clayton White and his defense, and now kind of turning the page to not having to go directly against Spencer Rattler. And he was talking about how that they were kind of having a competition just to see who could pick Rattler off for the first time, and how it took a while for them to get there. He was talking about how he and Spencer, he didn't use the word partnership, but they even have a relationship where they're constantly talking, hey, what did you see on that as a quarterback? Or coach, what were you trying to get me to see there? What were you trying to mess with my eyes? So there's a constant kind of back and forth with those two as well. Jason weighing in, sounds like Rattler has been crazy accurate with the ball. Excellent point, Jason. If you really listen, Clayton White had a little comment there. He said, our DBs are finding out if you give any space at all, or if you take your eyes from where they're supposed to be for a split second at all, you're finding out the ball is on the receiver kind of before you blink. Those are the type things, I think, Chris, where a quarterback goes from just playing within an offense, just kind of hitting a guy when he's open, just doing the kind of, this is the bare, I don't want to say the bare minimum. It's more than that. But you're just doing what it takes to be a good quarterback versus being a guy who can create something even if there's not much room.
Well, and this would be the ideal scenario, Wes. What if Spencer Rattler progresses to where he's doing all the things that you just listed, right? That there are instances that I've heard in the preseason where he's doing things that seem small, but really are indicative of the fact that he has taken a step forward. Just impressive things with his eyes, moving defenders, holding defenders. Those are those like next level things. We know that if you go out and you say Spencer throw an out route, he can throw it better than a lot of quarterbacks, right? He can push the ball down the field better than a lot of quarterbacks. He can also make a lot of those off-platform plays, a lot of those off-schedule plays. He can make those little tweaks. I mean, several of them didn't hit. They were near hits, near misses last season. You think about the A&M throw, for instance, against Jalen Brooks. I mean, that would have been one of the highlights of the year, right? It's a near miss. But then you think about the Juice Wells throw, right, where he moves the pocket a little bit, and then he throws it upfield to Juice Wells for the 72-yard touchdown. But he's also doing, I think, kind of some of those next level things too. So look, you look at Spencer Rattler. Look at the season he had 2020 at Oklahoma. Over 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. that offense was kind of a mixture of, we know Lincoln Riley has a great offense for quarterbacks, but Spencer Rattler also has a lot of talent. We saw him thrive in that offense. It appears to me, Wes, that Dowell Loggins' offense is going to be very friendly. I don't know if we could say to all quarterbacks yet. Hopefully for USC, that ends up being the case. But it does appear that it has been friendly to Spencer Rattler, and that he has also taken his game to the next level to kind of accentuate everything that Dowell Loggins wants to do as well.